Okay. So I want to welcome back everyone to part 2 of today's retreat. I hope people had a little chance for meditation in the meantime, but regardless, here we are. And as promised, I'd like to further encourage this practice of being able to be present with dukkha, with when I start to think of the range of translations of dukkha, it's like everything uncomfortable, everything, the slightest bit of dissatisfaction or desire, aversion, excitement, misery, pain, suffering, the whole thing, whatever is not peaceful, whatever is not spacious, happy, joyful. So you might wonder what's the difference between happiness and excitement. Even when we satisfy a craving that we have, there's dukkha in it. If it's related to the material world, there's dukkha in it. If it's related to the sense of self, there's dukkha in it. A lot of times when we use the word joy in this context of the Dhamma, it's a very unattached, spacious, unconditional kind of joy. It's a joy in the practice and the inspiration. It's selfless. So we have a lot of positive experiences that are selfless. And those are to be cherished and encouraged. Again, cherished, not in a clinging, craving way. And it takes some investigation and experience to feel the difference of when joy like pamoja or piti or sukha are present in our experience, and they're not the feelings that we cling to, but the feelings that are supportive and freeing. So I am going to encourage bringing up some feeling that's not that, that's on the side of dukkha. And it might be something that happened this year or not, could have been any time. Or it might be something that recurs in your experience because we have these patterns, our ways of thinking, our ways of perceiving, our ways of experiencing situations, our perceptions, how we hear things. We can hear things and have responses that other people around us won't have. You know, we hear things in a certain way. We take in sense impressions and we add our conditioning to it. So I'm going to be using the format from Feeding Your Demons that Lama Tsultrim Oleone put together. And one of the things that I was very impressed by, so I was introduced to this book maybe in 2009 or 2010. And I had already been using other formats that had similar results, focusing from back in the 1980s. I actually was exposed to it in the 1990s, and then there was another different kind of format that I used for a while. And then Feeding Your Demons, it felt to me like really came to the crux of the situation, the crux of the problem, and in a very streamlined, kind of simple way in my experience of it. And the fact that I attended a Daylong retreat with Lama Tsultrim many years later. And she was still teaching it in exactly the same way as it's presented in the book. And I thought, yeah, she really nailed it in the beginning, from the beginning, because she hasn't changed it as far as I could tell at that time. You know, a lot of times people come up with a method, but then they're refining it over time, which is understandable and admirable, you know, to improve our use of techniques. But the fact that she hadn't gave me a lot of confidence in the process as it stands. So that's what I'll be sharing with you now. And I'm just going to refer back to the format that is found in the index in this book as I guide you. I haven't done this with anyone for a while, so I will make sure I'm on the track of the formula here. And also, again, want to say that I'm not certified feeding your demons coach, and such people can be found out there. You can probably even maybe go to the website. Does anybody remember what the website's called? Yeah, it's Lama Tsultrim
Taramandala, I think.
Taramangala, thank you very much. That's right. Taramangala in Colorado. And they have programs for helping people use feeding your demons, and they have a lot of other things going on, and they train people to coach people or guide people, and so that's valuable. And I have not been formally trained in this. I have a lot of experience, and I was trained in the ministry school that I was in to guide people with focusing. So there are some similarities. Just want to make that disclaimer before we start. So let's start by settling into a meditation posture that's comfortable for you. This is about meditation in the sense that it really is a kind of reflection. And when we practice in this way and we ask questions, we want the answers to really come from our intuition, from a deep place of silence. And that can come even if you don't feel like your mind is that silent, just pausing and really staying present and open and not thinking about an answer, but just allowing an answer to come up from deep inside. And that's really where our intuition, you might say, resides. That's where the knowing of the Dhamma is, in the silence. So find a comfortable position and relax the body. Invite the body to relax. I always find it helpful to put my attention on my breath and really use the breath as a support in relaxing the body and relaxing the mind. Becoming centered, comfortable. And the first step in this process is to decide what you want to work with in this particular session. So then the language here is about a demon, but demons aren't always ugly monsters. Sometimes they can be a hurt or tender part of our mind, of ourselves, whatever incident or experience that comes up that has some emotion around it and is a source of suffering, is really whatever kind of comes to mind or whatever you decide you'd like to examine during this session. Let that come up in your mind. And locate where you feel it in your body. Sometimes you might feel a tightness in your chest or the throat, something in your gut, in your stomach, or wherever you might feel it most strongly, that tension that comes with this feeling, with this emotion, or with a thought. And see if you can intensify it a bit, because if we make it a little stronger, highlight it, and it's easier to work with and more effective too. So whatever happened, maybe it brings its own very strong feeling with it. That's fine, that's enough. Or if it's a mild feeling, you might want to intensify it, sometimes adding one more thought to it. What if this happened to me every day? What if this happened with every person I meet? Or however might be a way to bring up a bit more intensity, stronger felt sense. That might be helpful. And then you let go of the story entirely. And you just are present with this feeling. And to be present with means we're not caught up in it. We're standing at the edge of the felt sense. And we're observing it. And this felt sense has certain qualities. You notice the size, like how big is it there in your body? If it had a color, what would the color be? Does it have a texture? What would the texture be? Is it spiky? Is it smooth? Is it firm? Is it soft? When we ask these questions about the feeling, about this felt sense, then we're really engaging mindfulness. We're not caught up in the feeling, we're observing it. And in this case, we want to really try to have our internal vision clarify what this feeling is, what its qualities are. And we want to personify it. If it were a living being, what would it look like? Its body, its arms or legs, and its face. Can you imagine it? Can be anything. Just take the first thing that comes, even if it seems incredibly ridiculous, a cartoon character, it doesn't matter. A plate of Chinese noodles, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Just use it. This is what your subconscious is kicking up here. What does it look like? Does it have a sound, a smell? Notice the surface of its skin. Does it have a gender? What's its size? Yeah. What can you discern of its character? What is its emotional state? Can you see the look in its eyes? Can you invite this being to sit across from you, wherever you are? And you're observing it. Is there anything to notice that you haven't already noticed about it? Now you're going to ask it 3 questions, and don't answer the questions yet. Just ask. What do you want from me? And what this means is on the most superficial level, what does this creature want from you? Like if I were to ask my angry teenager, they might want me to feel as hurt as they do or something like that. This demon might want you to suffer in some way because of its anger. What do you want from me? What do you need from me? Now, this question goes deeper. What does that angry teenager need? Love, respect, something? What do you need from me? And the third question is, how will you feel when you get what you need? Now, don't answer, but shift from your own position, either physically or just mentally, and sit in the place of the demon and take on the demon's qualities. Feel yourself in the demon's skin. And when you're ready, answer the question, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Just let that answer arise from your intuition. And then the second question, what do you need from me? And the third question, how will you feel when you get what you need? And maybe that's one word, or whatever it is that arises there. This is the one that's important to remember. Now, when you have the answers, come back to your own space. Come back to where you are sitting. And take a moment to really get settled in there and to see the demon in front of you again. Now remember the answer to that third question, how the demon will feel when it gets what it needs. And you're going to imagine dissolving. You can let your whole body dissolve, or you can just let some kind of nectar or substance come from you to the demon that is this quality that they will feel. Whatever it is, this is what you feed the demon. And you can imagine this nectar, if you dissolve your whole body into it or you just let it emanate from you. Imagine what this nectar is like. Is it like honey? Is it like water? What kind of substance is it that the demon will be feeding on? And imagine how the demon takes it in. It can be any way. It can lap it up. It can get it with its hands. It can just wallow in it. Whatever conveyance it is to be ingested by the demon, to be taken in, completely absorbed into the demon, this quality that it will feel when it's completely satisfied, it gets what it needs. Suck it up with a straw, whatever it is. What color is this nectar? What color? What consistency? And the demon takes it in and takes it in and takes it in until it's fully satisfied. And just let that process happen. And you keep feeding until the demon is completely satisfied. Now, once in a while, it happens that it seems like this demon is just insatiable. There's no end to it. And in such a case, you can just ask it, how will you feel? How would you feel if you're completely satisfied? Once we ask a question like that, then the satisfaction becomes complete. And by now, or whenever that process finishes, the demon might look very different. It could take on a whole new persona, or it could just disappear from the space. Or change dramatically in some other way. Now satisfied and complete. So if a different kind of being is there in front of you now, you can ask it 3 more questions. First, you can ask if this new being is your ally, or if there's no being left there anymore, then you can invite an ally to come. You want to notice the details of this being in front of you. What color is it? What's its size? What's the look in its eyes? There are a few possible questions you could ask. You can ask it, how will you protect me? Or how will you help me? What commitment do you make to me? How can I gain access to you? But don't answer them yet. Now you can change places mentally or physically and take on the persona of the ally, become the ally. And when you're there, settled into the form of the ally, into the skin of the ally, then answer that first question. I'll protect you by, or I'll help you by. Let the answer arise. I commit to you that I will let that arise in you to finish that sentence. And you can gain access to me by when you have had all those answers arise, then return to yourself, your own space, your own form. Take a moment to feel the help and protection coming from the ally. And then imagine the ally dissolving into you. After all, this is just another aspect of your own mind. And then, if you like, you can imagine you and the ally dissolving into emptiness. You can rest in a state of awareness, presence. For whatever time you'd like to use. You're also welcome to write a few things down if you'd like to keep track of things that came up. And I'll leave it up to you. Sit for about 10 minutes and then I'll ring the bell. Okay, I'd like to know if you have any questions or would like to share anything from your experience. Feel free to do that. I mean, sometimes it produces really great, interesting results, and sometimes not much happens. So, I mean, whatever that was like, hopefully there's some learning that can come from it. And again, it's always challenging when you're leading a group because you don't know where people are exactly. So doing it on your own might be better. Yeah, James.
Hi.
Hi.
It's interesting you chose this subject because, as you said earlier about doing a year's review, I was looking back on my year, and one of the things that I've been exploring for the last couple of months is the degree to which I kind of like use practice and meditation as just a means of sort of bringing up peace and calm, and but shying away from sort of facing up to these sort of more difficult things.
Mm.
And it's interesting that well, I still have difficulty like experiencing those emotions in the body. So for example, earlier I was recalling the meditation we did the previous session. I was recalling an event earlier in my life that sort of certainly used to bother me. And although I couldn't feel much in the way of emotion, it's weird that still I felt my breathing increase in speed and a sort of wincing a bit in the face, but I didn't really feel anything, which was kind of weird.
Mhm.
And I've along that suspicion I've got a kind of detachment from that experience of emotion. So I think maybe I sort of did this in a slightly odd way, in which rather than thinking of a memory and experience the emotions, I focused on, I always got tension in the shoulders, which I used to think was, I don't know, like arthritis or something, but nowadays I believe it's just like an expression of emotion.
Mhm.
So I just focused on that, and it's similar to what I'm doing in meditation more now. As I say, trying to explore emotions more rather than necessarily understanding what's there. I just feel like there's something there, and I'm trying to understand it. And so I like you said about what shape is it, what color is it, just trying to understand it. So I'm kind of like looking at the symptoms rather than the symptoms that arise because of the thought, if you see what I mean. Does that
Mhm.
make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. And I think your exploration is good. As you work with this, what I found is as I work with a system like this or a technique like this, then you start to really develop more discernment around like what these feelings are, what these emotions and how they show up. Sometimes people tell me that they don't have any idea what it's like to feel an emotion in your body.
Oh.
They're just not tuned in to that at all. And then sometimes it takes a pretty strong emotion, maybe one that rises in the moment of something happening, that
Oh.
if the mind is trained to then look to the body and experience where it's in the body, then they'll start to get a sense of that, as they experience a strong emotion. So I think it's just going to be a matter of practice
Oh.
and exploring that. Yeah.
I certainly have approved. I'm not saying I don't feel nothing, and I certainly
Mm-hmm.
feel
Yeah.
the pleasant sensations because I think, like I say, I think I'm sort of deliberately shy away from facing the more difficult things. And I think my biggest mistake in practice up to this point is to too consistently pursue good feelings rather than facing the bad. But it was interesting that the image that arose for me was a robot very similar to the one from, is it Alice in Wonderland, the Tin Man, only a bit more high tech and almost a bit like RoboCop, if you ever seen that movie. And the response I got was that he didn't really know. Well, I imagine him as claws, like grabbing my shoulders, because that's where this tension sits.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
camps. But the answer to the first question was basically he didn't know why he was doing it. He was just programmed to do so. Which I think sort of has some insight into then, well, you know, if the robot doesn't know, then not surprisingly I don't know either.
Yeah.
So I tried feeding him, and he became a rather more sleek and sophisticated type android person, like a Mandalorian from Star Wars. And when I asked him whether he was going to help me or not, he kind of shrugged in a bit of a kind of indifferent kind of like, well, I'll try not to make things worse for you, but that's the best I can do. So, it's a very interesting exercise, though. I don't use that kind of focused, imaginative. I'm usually very passive in meditation, just sort of waiting, and there's times that to do something a bit more active. You know, it's. I was thinking earlier is that I think sometimes isn't it appropriate to. There is times when it's appropriate to meditate to find peace and calm because that helps us face the difficult things, and sometimes that's what you need, but you can't overindulge in it. And there has to be other times when you have to be more disciplined and be like breaking new ground or seeking frontiers or exploring places that haven't been explored. Yeah, but that's been my theme of this latter part of the year anyway.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Yeah, and having a range of tools so that we can meet the moment, you know, because when we're really triggered and we feel really strong emotions, it's really a kind of spiritual bypassing to just go meditate and try to find peace and calm.
Certainly.
Yeah, and it's not like the Dhamma is gonna let us off the hook there, because it'll come back, you know, and keep bothering us until we actually face and turn and face and deal with it. So yeah, in human life, there's ample opportunity.
But I'm finding it useful though to sort of spend some time meditating, calming with the idea
Yes.
that it makes it easier, therefore, to look at other things with equanimity, I suppose you would say. Yeah.
Certainly true.
Yeah.
And we're all different. We all have different conditioning, different makeup. And, you know, I wouldn't say that it's essential that people do this kind of process, you know, and just see if it's valuable. Yeah. Maybe just going into bliss and having wisdom arise is enough. You know, it's okay. You know, we look for the signs of development and in our daily life. You know, if we're really responding to situations differently with more equanimity and wisdom, and we're making sound decisions about how to respond and following through, then fine, you know, it's totally okay. So, yeah. Thank you, James. Aaron?
Hey. So that was really eye-opening to have this being in front of me who was just broken and neglected and hurt and had just so much pain in its eyes, and to not see it as me, but as something to care for and something to see a path of growth for it. It was hard to differentiate between want and need. I really had to delve into that one. What does that being actually need? But then I realized that the want was a result of being put into that state. It's the result of what had been done to that being. And the need was what it should have gotten instead.
Yeah.
How it should have been loved and cared for, and it wasn't. Yeah, really powerful. And I really appreciated the guidance for the ways to bring the emotion about, because initially it was just based on light anxieties that happened recently. And to really nurture those feelings and make them stronger, that was really important to get to that point. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Beautifully put. That exploration that you did in that distinction between what was wanted and what was needed was really beautiful. Thank you. Anything else? If not, then go ahead and spend the next hour meditating and in whatever way you choose. And we'll come back again about 3 p.m. and then we can have Q&A or whatever is suitable for everyone. Okay, see you soon.